Me again. Okay, so the scientific process is a lot like what we do in class. We usually use the engineering process when we're building or doing things like that. When we're testing to see what happens with something, then we're going to switch over to the science side. So this week, we're going to learn about the scientific process, and then your assignment is going to be to make your own lab. You're going to get to test whatever it is you want, but you have to do the 5 steps. And I'm going to challenge you to make a video. And we did a video with Penelope. She's been wanting to do an experiment, and so we did a video with her. So you'll be able to see exactly what we'd like for you to do. So the first step in the scientific process, I can get my card, is ask. Now, what this means is you ask, what am I wanting to test? What am I wanting to know? So like in our book, she wanted to know, her question that she asked was, can you live on ketchup and snow? It's just as simple as that. All you do is ask the question. You're not answering it yet. It doesn't have to be a right question. It just has to be what's called a testable question. So if it's something that is impossible, which you know, Ms. Davenport says there's few things that are impossible. But if it's something that's going to be really, really hard to test, then that's where your ask gets too crazy. So like if I say, if I throw food coloring up in the air, will it change the world to red? That's kind of a crazy question. Is that very testable? Probably not. So our first step is ask. What's the first step? Ask. Good job. Okay, step number 2 is predict. So our question was, in the book, can a kid live on ketchup and snow? Now you have to make a prediction. It can be yes, a kid can live on ketchup and snow only, or it could be no way, a kid cannot live on ketchup and snow only. That's it. It's just a prediction on what you think is going to happen, okay? So predict is step number 2. What's step number 2? Predict. Very good. Now, step number 3 is investigate. Investigate is where you actually do your experiment. You gather your supplies and you test it, okay? You do all the stuff. And so that may be if I want to know if a kid can live on ketchup and snow, I'm going to get my ketchup, I'm going to get my snow, and then I'm going to follow my steps and watch and see what happens, which leads us to our next step. But first, step number 3, what is it? It's investigate. What's step number 3? Investigate. Very good. Okay, now, as you're doing an experiment, 3 and 4 actually go together. So 4 is observe. And observe, as you can see, there's an eyeball there. What we do is we watch. We watch and see what's happening. What are the reactions? What are the results? And that's going to show us if our prediction is right or wrong, okay? So step number 4 is observe. What's step number 4? Observe. Very good. Okay, now, step number 5 is explain. Explain is when you gather up all the stuff that you just tested and you put it into sometimes a graph or sometimes a presentation, and you talk about what happened. So if I was testing if kids could live on snow and ketchup, here would be where if my prediction was yes, kids can live on snow and ketchup, and when I was testing it, I was getting sick, I was throwing up, I was turning red like ketchup. Was my prediction right? It probably wasn't. I can't just eat ketchup and snow. And so I would explain that kids cannot live on just ketchup and snow, and here's why I know that, okay? I tested it. So that's where you explain it. Now, this goes in a circle. Well, it goes this way. It goes in a circle over and over and over because scientists never stop testing things. But there's 2 words I want you guys to know about. One is the word constant. A constant is something that stays the same through your experiment, okay? It doesn't change. You want to make sure it's the same. So like if we were testing ketchup and snow, the amount of ketchup and the amount of snow that I ate each time, it needed to be the same. In a minute, you're going to watch an experiment, if you want, that Penelope did. And we had 5 different soda or 5 different liquids. And she wanted to see what happened with Mentos in there. And we used 2 Mentos in each one of the bottles. That was a constant. The constant was the 2 Mentos. We only used 2. We didn't use 2 and then 5 and then 7. We only used 2 because that was the constant. What's the word? Constant. Okay. The other word is a variable. A variable, you hear the word vary in there, and it means to change. A variable can change. So our constant was the Mentos, 2 Mentos. The variable that changed was the 5 different kinds of soda that we used. It changed every single time. So your experiment is always going to have a variable, and it's always going to have a constant. So you need to think about that. If you have a whole bunch of things that change over and over and over, then your experiment isn't always going to be valuable. It's not going to be viable where you can use it. So those are a whole lot of words, but let's go through our 5 steps. And remember, this always goes in a circle. So the first one, say it with me: ask, predict, investigate, observe, and explain. Okay? Your assignment this week is going to be to make 1 or 2 experiments. I don't care what they are. I want you to use that brilliant brain of yours and come up with something. There were some experiments in our book that failed, and experiments are not always going to be successful. And that's kind of fun, actually. It's okay when they fail. It's okay to fail. We talk about that all the time in class, right? You failed, you failed, you failed, you failed, you failed, you failed. It's okay. That's the fun thing about science. It's not always going to work. So don't be afraid to fail this week. Mess up gloriously. Make big mistakes. But I want you to come up with your own experiment and record it if you can. And if not, just send me either a picture or an explanation of what you did, because I'm excited to see what your experiments are this week. And you can email or text them to me. That information will be on the slide in your assignments. Okay? I miss you. I love you. I'll see you soon. Bye.